A gap analysis is the starting point to find out how and indeed whether to implement some kind of management system or other set of arrangements to meet a requirement such as a standard. Many organisations are asked to meet a particular requirement such as a management system standard like ISO 27001, and usually they're asked to do this in order to win a piece of business, a contract, or even to be able to tender for something. And so they need to find out what's involved. How do we meet this requirement? Because we want to have this thing so that we can win the business. So a gap analysis is a good place to start. And it is really what it says on the tin. It's an analysis of gaps. The gap analysis really comprises interviews, and the consultant will talk to relevant people in the organisation to understand exactly what arrangements are there, from things like policies, a top management group or a group of people to lead and direct the whole process, through things like the risk assessment and treatment process, and then evaluation processes, things to measure the effectiveness of information security controls and the management system itself. But for the most part, it's, as I say, interview-based, with sometimes an analysis of some existing documentation, if there is any. What the consultant will then do is to look at all of this information and produce a report setting out the gaps and what the requirements are to achieve the objective. The report contains really a simple analysis of the requirements of this management system standard, so ISO 27001 again is a good example. There are 7 different main processes that are required, and the report describes what arrangements are currently in place, whether they could be adapted to meet the requirements of the standard, the implications for resource to be able to develop the processes and make them operative, and roughly how long it might take and what sort of difficulties and impediments there might be for the organisation to meet them. We always build into the report the implications for certification, and whether it's an assessment of whether the arrangements that are currently there would be seen by a certification auditor as meeting the requirements of standard, and that's a really important part of the analysis. We often get approached by clients who have decided they're going to do this. They don't really know what it's going to cost, and so they want a gap analysis done in order to, if you like, minimise the total expenditure. Sometimes it's worth doing a gap analysis first, because then we can give a quote to do the rest of the work based on what the analysis says, and that's usually going to be much more accurate than if we give an estimate based on no knowledge of what arrangements are currently in place. Yes, an organisation could use a gap analysis tool. We have some gap analysis tools available. What this requires, though, is the experience and knowledge to be able to assess whether the arrangements in question meet the requirement of the standard. With the consultants we have in IT governance, we've got people who've been through the process many times with certification bodies, with clients, and so we really know what these people are looking for.